how much power you have now, Peter, could you say to Stephen, I really want to hang out, you know, with the silence? Or, you know, favourite monsters or villains from Doctor Who's past? Can Stephen say, can we have those? Can we Peter?
Infinite.
Oh, really?
I don't know, I haven't really tried it. Really.
Come on!
Stephen's quite amiable and open to ideas, aren't we? So, we're having a little bit of struggle over the Mondasi and Cybermen. Push-ups in the morning.
Do you actually mean the ones with the backward balaclavas? Yeah. Sorry, this is going to lose some of you, Jenna.
I've heard this
Well, I would
conversation.
say that they have backward balaclavas because that is the technology that was available Cybermen with CGI, with latex makeup and all of the kind of things that we do.
I think this is unresolvable. I think this one needs to go down the path.
Or do you mean the ones from this universe?
Don't get me started.
Let's
I've had a few drinks now.
What came first, the idea to make the Doctor this very different step from the previous three, or Peter's come first as an actor, and then you kind of worked out through the character and what you wanted to do?
I'm afraid, given that this has worked out, I think, really, really well, the decision was arrived at phenomenal speed. I sort of realised we couldn't just go for another Matt Smith type. We couldn't go for another quirky young man with interesting hair. People would start to notice that that's what we were doing. Yeah. People would start styling their hair in improbable ways in the hope of being cast. Peter just sort of popped in. I'd known Peter for quite a few years because I remember just when Doctor Who was coming back, the thick of it was just starting. And Peter came looming up to me in a sinister fashion at a party. And I thought, oh, that's fantastic, that's the bloke from the thick of it. I can talk about the thick of it. He wouldn't let me. He just kept going on and on about Doctor Who. So I thought, okay, he's interested. And many years later, he just came into my head. I thought, what if it was him? But you always wonder, are you the only person that thinks that? So I spoke to my old friend Mark Gatiss and I said, I didn't say anything but Peter. I said, make me a list of who you think should be Doctor Who. He spent the next 7 days solidly writing names, obviously, because he's Mark. But right at the top of the list, with the space underneath to indicate that it was the top choice, was Peter. And then I went and talked to Brian and Andy, and we were just talking about whether we thought this was a good idea. And Andy was really into it, and Andy Pryor's casting sense is impeccable. And Brian loved the idea because he knew him from Children of Earth. So it's just like everybody had the same idea at once, and we should just go for it. Then we got Peter around to my house to do an audition, which is cool. You just get Peter Capaldi to come round to your house and perform Doctor Who in your living room. I was thinking, this is what I do with my life.
And the Scottish question, I love the way you addressed that as well, the accent issue. Was that always, so from the start, you think you just got to do it in your own accent? What's the point of?
Well, actually, one of the first things we talked about that day, wasn't it? And you just said, and I think it was a very right thing to say, I need to move the Doctor to me. And that's absolutely right. But also, what does it mean? I mean, his accent must be acquired randomly. It doesn't make any sense what accent he has, does it, particularly?
No.
Why shouldn't he be Scottish?
And also, he's had an English accent for years.
Yeah.
You know, so it's the idea that he doesn't have an accent is just ridiculous. But I just felt that it was important to, as Stephen says, bring the Doctor to me to try and make, and that's sort of what I've seen with a lot of actors who I enjoy. They don't become the part becomes them. So you pull it more closely to yourself. And in a way, funnily enough, I think the Doctor is closer to me than, for instance, Malcolm Tucker was. He was a much not tougher, but there was a bigger leap. There was more stuff to do and more of a distance to cover.
You seem much nicer than Malcolm Tucker.
I am much nicer.
Did you and Stephen talk about all that stuff going into the season? How did you arrive at this guy?
I think he just saw those qualities in me. And just cast me that way.
Is that true, Stephen?
But it's partly maximising what you've got with the new Doctor.
Yeah.
And what I thought Peter could bring to it. But it's a lot, the truth about this is, and no one ever quite believes me, but the difference in the way you write the Doctor isn't that great. It's what the actors bring to it. that changes it. The changes in emphasis come from the actors.
Really throughout, but certainly in the first season, Series 8, there was quite the sort of praying mantis quality. Yeah. I was curious if that was the direction that you were going in the sense of your physiognomy and movement.
No, I had a very distinct sort of visual image in my head, which was a kind of almost kind of spidery, kind of black thing, scratching kind of lines, dark with a piece of colour in it. Which of course, I think we're all rather alarmed in the Doctor Who branding world when I confronted them with these ideas, because they would rather you had a sort of funny hat, a colourful thing that they could make a toy of, and they wanted to sell and stuff. But I thought that was the wrong direction to go in. I thought you had to come at it from what you thought was right. And the Doctor, to me, has, because of, I guess, the Doctors that I grew up with as well, had always had an element of profound mystery about him and danger. He was kind and he would always look after you, but he was not a human being, and so he was not always best equipped. I mean, I think he sort of developed, the Doctor was developed into this very sort of avuncular, kind of warm sort of character, but it was not always so. And I think I wanted to try and evoke some of that. But yeah, I saw him as this kind of, and sometimes you get into the TARDIS, and sometimes if you're all in black, you cut a very jagged sort of line. So I would do that and move around a lot.
Yeah, I noticed with the arms in particular.
Yeah. And then I had too many breakfasts and got a bit tubbier. And I said, we better get a velvet jacket.
Traveling in India probably helps. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Well, in the episode where essentially it was the final episode for Clara, we saw how the Doctor essentially fought and pretty much waged war with the Time Lords to get her out. What was your feeling reading the script of that episode and actually acting through those scenes? Like, what were you thinking throughout that whole shoot?
Well, I think the Doctor, I liked the idea, I mean, tying in with what we said before, was the Doctor that I wanted to play. I wanted him to have a sort of slightly, almost German expressionist, kind of European dark sort of quality. And part of that is a kind of obsessiveness, is that having locked onto an idea, he would then, to the exclusion of everything else, pursue that idea. And of course, when that aligns with a deep emotional bond, which is what he has with Clara, then it becomes like a heat-seeking missile, and nothing will stand in his way. So I think that episode, well, first of all, it was sad because I knew Jen was going, but then I thought, well, we have to make this the best drama that we can, and I will make sure that the Doctor fights with everything he has, with every ounce of brain power. He will deduce a way to get her back. He's wrong, but the power of his emotion and of his intellect is unstoppable, and she has to teach him that. So it's a great story, it's a very, very clever story, but he does some wrong things in order to get her back, because he wants her back.
What inspired you, Peter, to create your Doctor, and would you make the same choices today?
Yeah. Well, I think I was, we had to consciously make a deliberate break from the direction that the show had been taken in with a very wonderful Matt, who's brilliant and has this incredible quality of being an old wise head on young shoulders, and being very cool, but being very accessible. as was David as well. He was brilliant in his way. So I wanted to try and somehow reconnect with the old show and the sort of mystery that was in that. And so I thought the only way to do that was to withdraw from the audience and make the Doctor less accessible. And yeah, I would do the same to an even greater extent, you know, because I think he should be a mystery. It's a really difficult situation when you have a show that's 50 years old. How do you make it mysterious? How do you know, every time you learn something more about the Doctor, you lose a little bit of mystery. So I like to keep them distant. So yeah, that's what I did, and I would continue to do so.
What was your favorite scene to record during season 10?
You have a particular scene that sticks out that you like, Peter?
The scene where I got to do Venusian Aikido.
Oh, yes.
That was my most favorite scene because we studied that, Mark and I studied that very intently to make sure that we had a fairly accurate John Pertwee-esque noise and pose. And I hope he's looking down on us and smiling that we got it back.
How did you get the guitar into the script? That was Peter's idea.
I just thought it would be a good idea.
It was a good idea.
That the Doctor should play the guitar. I just always thought it'd be great when you saw the TARDIS spinning through the time and space continuum, that you'd hear these power chords reverberating from it. I also thought he should play the guitar quite badly, like a sort of teenager, and have a huge amp that was made of old valves and Marshall stacks and things. Or you should plug the guitar into the TARDIS console. Can you imagine how great that would be?
When you were with the Dream Boys, you used to enter on a tank, right? So that's where it came from.
I said, the whole thing with me, you know, this is so me. I said it'd be a good idea to play the guitar. I didn't sort of really think they would go with it.
I tried to get a triangle in, but they didn't go for that.
But I read this scene and it said you come in on a tank playing an electric guitar and all that stuff. And I said to Stephen, I think that's just, you know, that's just a bit too much. I thought, am I wearing leather trousers? It's like, and I wanted him to cut it out because I thought it didn't work. But I was wrong, I think, obviously.
Your hair's quite different in this series. Did you have to run that by Stephen and Brian?
My hair's a nightmare. My hair is visible from space. It does what it likes. We try to make it work. And I think they realised that I had so many problems with the series one, and they stood back and let me deal with it because they knew that I would get into a fairly neurotic state about it. I thought I'd just let it go, really. See, I was very inspired by in Tom Baker's first season. He just looks like the most wonderful dog's dinner. You know, before I think later on he starts to get a perm and look a bit kind of deliberately sort of half remarksy. But I liked in the first season there was a mess. So without talking it through, I thought, well, I'll just be a mess. And that seemed to work.
So you just turned up and these two went off into a corner.
I don't know whether they were having heart attacks about it or
just stress. I've never had a hair conversation. Okay.
I find that very difficult to believe. Some of my predecessors have not had hair issues. I certainly found some of David Tennant's hair gels lying around.
So you've had a lot of costumes over your tenure as the Doctor, and one piece of costume has remained constant over the past 3 series, the iconic Paul Smith jumper. As you mentioned earlier, the Doctor loves Paul Smith.
Yeah.
So I know that you had that prior to wearing it in the show. Yeah. So how did you manage to persuade the production team to let you wear it?
Well, I didn't have it. What happened was we were looking for the Doctor Who costume, which is a nightmare. You know, I mean, it just goes on for years. And there are so many committees and so many people who have to please and blah, blah, blah. And you sort of know what you want when you start, but you've got to jump through all these hoops to please everybody. And I'd been jumping through some of those hoops, and I'd gone to the shop and I'd seen this spotty jumper. I thought, that's Doctor Who's jumper. There's no doubt about that. That's Doctor Who's jumper. So I bought it. And I wore it to my read-through, the first
I saw that in the interview.
Hoping people would, and I kept saying, this is Doctor Who's jumper. Finally they agreed that it would be Doctor Who's jumper, and they had to go to the shop and buy a whole pile of them. I mean, people were very up for it. They liked it. It's good. So, worked out okay.
What are the chances of it being seen in your last episode?
Oh, you don't want me to give away stuff like that, do you? Like, isn't that, what jumper is he wearing? People are telling him, I wonder what jumper he's wearing. Do you think it's a spotty one? I'm not telling you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My favorite thing about my costume is my shirt. I have a number of shirts, but my favorite thing is that I have no tie, no bow tie or anything like that. Because I always thought it'd be great if kids could just, you know, in order to become Doctor Who, you just button your shirt up. That's all you have to do. So I like that aspect of it. I used to have a rather nice polka dot shirt, which appeared in, I can't remember what episode it was in, Kilderman or something. I had a spotty shirt, and it vanished. Someone's probably wearing it now somewhere, but it was inspired by Bob Dylan in the 60s, and I think I'd like to see that make a reappearance.
What about you, Peter? Because we love the slightly swishy jacket.
Swish.
Yes, it's the
Yes, I think it's inevitable that Doctor Who always ends up in crushed velvet. So we've taken that a bit further. And I've ended up with lots of different outfits, which is nice. I think it's, you know, people always think of, you know, they have a favourite Doctor and they have a particular look and they think that Doctor wore that all the way through. But if you actually go back and look at the episodes, you'll see, I mean, for instance, Tom Baker was in purple velvet for quite a while. And obviously John Pertwee wore a lot of velvet. So I'm glad that we've got some velvet flying around. I think that's appropriate and right.
It is. I think it's a good
And it looks very good on you.
Oh, thank you.
What traces of previous Doctors are you going to bring to your Doctor?
Good question. Well, there are moments where consciously we do touch upon some of the previous Doctors and then introduce some little things that are elements from them. But I think that, to be honest, because I was such a fan of the show and I was brought up with the show, I think that specifically the first four Doctors kind of found their way into my DNA. And I think that even if I hadn't won the part of Doctor Who, there would still be a little bit of them in the kind of actor that I am. I think they sort of made me, rather than, you know, than going to RADA and being taught how to act properly, I was sort of taught at the school of Doctor Who. So that introduced a certain kind of eye-boggling, eyebrow work, all of that sort of stuff, being a bit big, being a bit small, mirthfulness. I think all of these things which I liked, which all those Doctors had, I think they fed into me as an actor anyway. And I think probably if you look back at some of my earlier work, you'll see some of that with a lot of overacting.
I mean, do you think he's a super nice guy?
Do I think he's a nice guy?
Yeah, because he comes off kind of abrasive sometimes to people, and he's
fabulous. He's a wonderful guy. He's a guy you really want to hang around with. He's incredible. He's a laugh. He's great looking. He's terrifically lithe for his age.
Yeah.
I think he's, we sort of live in a world where everybody's supposed to be everybody's so easy, everything's so accessible. So, the Doctor's mysterious. He's a Time Lord. He's not a guy. He's a special creature. I don't even know whether he even has a corporeal being. He may present this to everyone, but he may exist in a totally different plane. So he's not a guy. But if he was a guy,
he'd have my face and he'd be really nice. Yeah. I think the process of regeneration is one that's as much of a shock to the incumbent as it is to everyone else. So I think he doesn't know who he is. So he spends a lot of the time scrambling around trying to find out what his character is, what his nature is. And obviously in season 8, I think he struggled a lot with the fact that he knew that he was compelled from within to pursue the greater good, which would often mean that he would leave wreckage in his path. And he would do that, but he wasn't comfortable with it. He didn't know that that was a good thing to do or to be. So he's a constantly growing character. I think he is not a soldier. He's a good guy. He'd rather that there was no violence. He'd rather that there was peace. He'd rather sit in the car park at night looking at the stars, than have to go out and blow up Daleks. I like blowing up Daleks. And I think he enjoys it as well once he gets going. But yeah, I don't think he sees him as... He's not a military figure.
Right.
He's a sort of bohemian / philosopher / rebel Time Lord.
Why do you think he's so enamored of humans?
Budgetary reasons.
Fair answer.
I noticed just in the little clips we were showing, even that moment when you first introduced Bill to the TARDIS and you kind of do your sleep, there's that sense of the showman in you, those kind of little touches.
I think he loves, yes, I mean, that's one of the nice things about working with Pearl and about the character of Bill is that it's all new. So he can show off again, and he knows that it's a fantastic moment when someone walks into the TARDIS, and even he knows it's going to be great when she sees a Dalek, and he knows that there are fabulous adventures and things to be enjoyed. So I think he's getting a sort of kick out of showing her his life because it's new to her. And she's, by the end of the series, she's quite far more cynical and experienced and been knocked about a bit. But yeah, I think he loves being Doctor Who.
Peter, you've said the Doctor has to be a clown and a hero and a fool. And I gather you have interesting theories about the Doctor.
Yeah.
Would you care to... This is Brian's idea of a question, by the way, so I'm expecting an answer.
I have theories about him.
Yes. Well, because you grew up as a fan, you really have loved the Doctor all your life, and you've been playing him now so successfully for these 3 years. I wonder if you've thought a bit more about who he is and brought that to your interpretation and could share it with the audience.
Not really, no. I mean, you can't... The thing about Doctor Who, I think, as everyone will probably attest, is, if you're a fan of it, if you like it, you actually have a personal relationship with it. Sounds very, very naff and worrying from a 58-year-old man. But you have, I have thoughts about the Doctor and Doctor Who and who he is and how he is and what he is. But that's why it's called Doctor Who. If I told you all those things, then you would know who he was.
No, that's absolutely fair. And
who he is who he is to me, which is different from what he might be to Stephen.
So he is Dr. Mysterio, then. He has to be a mystery.
I think one of the hardest things to do with a show that's 50 years old, is to generate any mystery about this character. And every time we have a scene in which a piece of his past is revealed, another little piece of mystery drops off. So yes, I have theories and ideas, but they remain inside of me, and they have to survive all those bits of information being revealed. So I'll keep it that way.
We have to talk about the flirting issue, which you also talked about in an interview. So, is it true you wanted to make sure that this was different and that there wouldn't be none of that? And this was it does feel to me like a return to the very beginnings of the Doctor, that he was a different person who wouldn't even go there or anything.
I think that was inflated in the article into something that it never was. Because I don't recall having this conversation with Stephen or anyone. But I can remember in my own head thinking that Papa and Nicole would be a dangerous route to take.
Unless you met a nice dinosaur, in which case...
Yeah, you flirt with a dinosaur.
Yeah.
That's what happens, yeah.
How would you describe the chemistry between your character and Peter's?
Strange and charming.
What about you, Peter?
I think it's compelling. I think it's strange. I think the Doctor would crash into things all the time if Clara wasn't there. I think he didn't. I think in this new incarnation, he's actually less secure in himself than he appears. And I think Clara guides him. I think Clara helps him be more, well, especially in the new season, she tries to make him more sociable and tries to give him better people skills. But I think she certainly guides his heart. I think I think he's quite confused about who he is and what he should be doing. And I think he has a very strong instinctive drive, and I think Clara helps him modulate that. That's the most boring answer, isn't it?
I liked it. I was with you.
It's good.
No, I think it's great.
I need to ask you about the fact that it's not new that the companion is leaving. I mean, Jenna Coleman, which everyone I know is very. I mean, people come and go in Doctor Who, but she's been brilliant, basically. When did you know?
Several times. She was definitely leaving in Death in Heaven. And then she came round for lunch one day and said, "Oh, can I do Christmas as well?" And you can imagine what that was like. I've just written this out around the ending. Yeah, fine. So I put her back into Christmas and wrote her down that. And then on the world tour, she was going to leave, wasn't she? Yeah, definitely leaving that one. And then we thought, I said, you can't. I said to you, we've got to do something here. We can't let her leave. So we sort of ambushed her and tried to talk sense into her and say, stay for another year because it would be great fun. It'll be wonderful for your career and other lives like that. The world's most rubbish handbook in the world. Because I was standing beside you, and you came over, Jenna was over there, and you came over and said, Stephen, don't look at Jenna. Where? I think we might have a chance of persuading her to stay. Who? Jenna, don't say her name. And I said, she's coming over, and you said, where? And she walked over and we were just saying, hello. We weren't talking about not you at all.
How has your Doctor changed over the course of filming the series as your relationship has developed with Bill?
I don't know. I just sort of turn up and try to get through the day. So I'm not really aware of any. I'm sure if I looked at the whole series, I would see different ways of playing. But you just sort of get on with trying to play that scene and trying to do that scene properly, as opposed to thinking of in a bigger kind of way. I think because Bill's much more. Bill, this is the wrong. I was going to say she answers back. I don't mean it in that kind of sort of a teachery kind of way. I mean that she has a lot of her own ideas about the universe and the cosmos and the world, which are some of them are absolutely bang on and some of them are not. And so the Doctor has to try and educate her and also allow her to be the wonderful person that she is also. So I think that's a slightly different, it's actually a little more, I think it's a little more like, I call it hardcore Doctor Who. It's like old Doctor Who. Because I think in the old Doctor Who, they would generally have someone who didn't really know anything about time and space, and they'd be brought from the current world into the magic wardrobe and taken off to television centre to meet a rubber monster and cardboard sets and whatever. And Pearl does that brilliantly. You know, she sort of has her own energy and life and sparkle, which is separate from the energy of the show, but adds to it. So it's interesting.
Can we talk about some of the other episodes? There's the original Cybermen from the old William Hartnell storyline, is that right?
Mondasian Cybermen.
Mm-hmm. And that's your idea, was it? Was it your request?
No, it was just, we would do events like this and people ask you questions. And I hadn't actually ever thought what my favourite monster was, but inevitably someone says to you, what's your favourite monster? Really it's a Dalek. But to change, I remember that I was very, very keen on the original Cybermen who came from Mondas, and I had someone, because they were never described as this in the show, but someone described them to me as a Mondasian Cyberman. And I just loved saying Mondasian so much, because it had a kind of air of kind of a strange kind of Far Eastern kind of weirdness about it. So I said that a lot, and Stephen very kindly decided that he would bring them back, I think as a gift to me, which was very, very sweet of him. But I really wanted the Chumbleys, they're my favourite. My Doctor is slightly mysterious to me. He has to balance the fact that he has the greatest existence that anyone can have, to go anywhere in time and space. But there's a cost to that. You leave a trail of wreckage behind you. And he fears that he is darker than he wants to be.
If the Doctor is still the Doctor, he will have my back. I'm right, Lana. God, please, God, say I'm right.